Welcome to the HFY Vault channel. Remember to like and subscribe if you like the story. Enjoy and take care. She crawled. Every morning, before the lights of the alien station brightened, she placed her hands on the cold metal floor and lowered her head. Then she moved, slow, silent, ashamed, toward a small silver bowl placed in the corner. A bowl for beasts. A bowl meant for someone who was not equal. Her name was Lyra, and she had not walked on her feet in 3 years. Guards watched from the shadows, their blue eyes shining like cold flames. They whispered, they laughed, they pointed. Every day, they waited for that same scene, the girl crawling like an animal, because she had no other choice. In the entire station, nobody asked why. Nobody cared why. Nobody even said her name. Except one man. A human. His name was Evan Carter, an engineer recently sent to the alien station for repairs. He was told never to interact with the low-born servant species. He was told they were less intelligent, less evolved, less worthy. But the first day he arrived, he saw something that made his heart stop. A girl, thin, trembling, dirty, on her hands and knees, crawling to a bowl. Not walking. Not standing. Crawling. And when she reached the bowl, she did not grab it like a human. She lowered her face and began to eat. Evan felt something break inside him. No one, not even an enemy, should live like that. But the aliens around him simply walked past her. Some even stepped over her. He clenched his fists. Something was terribly wrong here. That was the moment, the first spark of the story that would change everything. A girl who forgot she had a voice. For the next week, Evan watched secretly. Lyra cleaned hallways, polished weapons, and scrubbed floors. She lived in a tiny metal cell with no bed, no blanket, no window. She slept on the cold floor, curled into herself, like a small frightened animal. But what shocked Evan the most was her silence. She never spoke. Never looked up. Never made a sound. The guards pushed her, hit her, insulted her. Lyra simply bowed her head lower and obeyed. One evening, Evan saw a guard shove her so hard she fell into a wall. Her shoulder hit the metal edge, and she cried out in pain, a small, soft sound, like a wounded bird. The guard laughed. But Evan didn't. He walked over. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. Lyra froze. Her whole body shook. She did not look at him. Her arms wrapped around herself, and she curled up, expecting a strike. Evan realized something horrifying. She wasn't born crawling. She had been trained to crawl. He knelt beside her, trying to look harmless. "No one is going to hurt you," he whispered. But Lyra shook her head fast, terrified. She whispered a single broken word. "Sorry." And she crawled away. That night, Evan couldn't sleep. Why was she treated like this? What crime had she committed? What kind of galaxy allowed a human-looking girl to be treated lower than an animal? He decided he would find out. The secret of the lowborn. The aliens on the station were called the Xyler, tall, elegant, proud. Their society believed in strict ranks. The top ranks lived like kings, and the low ranks lived like shadows. Lyra belonged to the lowest of all. The lowborn had no rights. No freedom. No education. No families. They were raised from childhood to obey commands without question. They were taught one rule. You exist to serve. Nothing more. Evan felt sick reading the archives. But the worst part came when he read Lyra's personal file. She wasn't even alien. She wasn't Xyler. She was human. A human girl taken from a destroyed colony when she was only 8 years old, and raised as a servant pet. His hands shook as he read the words. Human subject. Obedient. Responds well to control. Conditioned to crawl. Conditioned. Trained to forget she was human. Evan closed the file, rage boiling in his chest. He could not leave her like this. The first time she stood. The next morning, Evan found Lyra in the hallway, washing the floor with her bare hands. Her fingers were red and bleeding. She didn't stop. She didn't look up. He approached slowly. "Lyra," he said softly. She flinched but continued wiping. "You don't have to crawl anymore," he said. She froze, as if her brain did not understand the sentence. Evan reached out his hand, not to grab her, not to pull her, just offering. Her eyes finally lifted. For the first time, she looked at him. They were beautiful eyes, deep brown, but filled with fear, like a candle that had burned too long in the dark. Evan spoke in a calm, warm voice. "Stand up." Lyra shook her head violently. "No, no, punishment." Her breath quickened. Tears filled her eyes. Evan said again, slower, softer. "Lyra, you are human. You are not a pet. You can stand." Her lips trembled. Her hands shook. Her whole body fought itself. She had never disobeyed an order in her life, but no one had ever asked her to stand. He extended his hand a little more. "Please. Let me help you." Something inside her cracked. Something that had been locked away for years. Very slowly, very weakly. Lyra placed her hand in his. Her fingers were thin and cold. Evan gently lifted her. Her legs trembled. Her knees shook. But inch by inch, she rose. She stood. For the first time in 3 years. Her breath broke into a sob. She covered her mouth in shock. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Evan whispered. "You see? You can stand. You're not meant for the floor." And Lyra, shaking, whispered back. "I forgot. The rebellion of one girl. Standing was only the first step." For the next week, Evan taught her small simple things. How to hold a cup. How to sit instead of kneel. How to speak without fear. At first, Lyra panicked at every sound. Panicked if someone walked behind her. Panicked if she made a mistake. But slowly, she began to breathe easier. Slowly, she began to feel alive again. Until the guards noticed. One day they saw her walking like a human, beside Evan. They snapped. "Why is she standing?" one guard shouted. "Who told her she could walk?" Lyra froze, shaking. But Evan stepped in front of her. "I did." The guard laughed harshly. "She is a low-born pet. She crawls or she dies." Lyra's breath trembled. Her knees began to bend. She was about to drop to the floor again. Until Evan grabbed her hand. "No. She stays standing." The guards raised their weapons. But something unexpected happened. Lyra squeezed Evan's hand back. For the first time in her life, she refused to crawl. The guards attacked. Evan defended her with everything he had, using tools, shields, anything nearby. Lyra, terrified but brave, pushed back, protecting him when he fell. The station alarms rang. The corridors filled with shouting. Chaos spread like fire. Finally, high-ranking officers arrived. When they learned Evan had discovered the truth, that Lyra was a stolen human, they backed down. They knew touching a human citizen meant war with Earth. They had no choice. They released her. Lyra was free. When the ship returned to Earth, Lyra stepped out slowly, her eyes wide, her heart trembling. People stared at her, humans. People who didn't want to hurt her. People who didn't see her as a pet. And beside her was Evan. She looked up at him, voice trembling. "Why did you help me?" Evan smiled gently. "Because you deserved better. Because you were meant to stand. Because no human should live on the floor." Lyra nodded, then took a deep breath. And for the first time in her life, she took a step forward on her own. No crawling. No fear. Just a girl finally rising toward her true worth.